Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Ruach HaKodesh, and double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace, love, salutations, and blessings to the house of David, which is the elect. And just I wanted to touch on this article. As you see, the 48ers plans to move Gaza population to single, quote, humanitarian city, which was confirmed by the defense minister, right, of the state of Israel. And last year around October, right, this idea of a humanitarian city was, first introduced, right, in the form of a biometric, what was it? Biometric screening, right, or humanitarian bubble, okay, gated communities, right, using all of these various different terms. So, which really are just the deception, right, the craftiness of this devil, right, his smooth words, because at the end of it, underneath all of the fluff and all of the verbiage, this is, setting up, or rather a trial run, right, for this B system that they, ultimately want to have the whole, world under. Okay, this city, right, or this area where you are only able to come in and out of, this where you live through biometric screening. So before, we've done videos on it where, they said that this was something that has been introduced or proposed, but there was no, actual official word on it, right? But now, as we, see that they basically decimated everywhere that the those Palestinians lived, right? Completely destroyed their towns, their cities, right? To where it literally looks like a or it is actually, it's a war torn or war zone. So, they did all this, right, despite the international outcry, despite the international, rebuke, right, by the UN, right, by even some of their own allies. They continue to do this bombardment upon civil, citizens, right? They call them civilians, with no regard or, no real consequences. And now they're coming with a solution of a humanitarian city, right? So, like I said, all of this is just, preliminaries to them doing this on a wide scale, and particularly, within, the Western world, right, where the mass of Jake is at. Okay, because we know that those 48ers, being the chief of the nation of Israel, of Esau, right, and knowing that Esau has dominion on the earth right now, they're the ones that's pushing out a lot of this, B system technology, right? And the NWO, all right, the new way of life that they want the world to be living under. So, and and we talk about how, a lot of these um, technocrats are Amalekites, right? A lot of these CEO of these Silicon Valley tech companies, are Amalekites, or Amalekites are, high ranked, within these corporations and governments, are, lobbyists. And it's really, like I said, it's because Amalek is the first of the nations, as it is written in the book of Numbers, which, when you go into that word first, meaning got the choicest part, or the chief. So knowing how Esau is moving, right, and the direction that they are trying to push, right, their enterprise, Well, who is at the spearhead of that, right? Who are the ones that are financing it? Who is the ones that, are bringing out the technology, for this? Okay. But you say too much and they, want to label you a, anti-S, right? And that's why they're pushing out so much anti-S rhetoric and trying to quell any alternative or not information that's coming out that is speaking against them, because they want their deeds, or their works, to be hid. But we're living in a time where, as the scripture says, that the truth which has been so long with our fruit shall be declared. Okay. And us being at the forefront, of speaking the truth, and you fellow uh, believers that believe in the truth and hear the truth, you know, that makes us a target, right? That makes us somebody that are, a people that this devil has great wrath against. But yet we know that our trust and our strength and defense is in the one and only true living God, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. So let's read this. It says, the 48ers is preparing to establish a so-called humanitarian city on the ruins of Rafah in the southern Gaza Strip, where the Palestinians' enclave entire population is to be moved, the country's defense minister, Israel Katz, has announced. So this is their plan, right? This is why they, are constantly bombarding schools, houses, towns, right, hospitals, everything, without any type of discretion, right, without any type of discernment of, all right, let's not do this, only trying to keep the war or the fire, right, against their enemy, which they claim is Hamas. But yet, when you read into how many civilians have been deleted by them, right, it's in the upper 50, 60,000. Okay. And they were doing that because they want all that land, right? Remember the what is it called? The Greater 48er Project, right? That Greater 48er Project, which you had this one chick, I seen a clip of it a while ago. Brothers have shared it, where you had this chick where she was basically saying that that land where the Palestinians live, right, what is called the so-called Gaza Strip, that ultimately is going to be belonging to the 48ers, right? And there was nothing that they could do about it. So we're watching that unfold right before our very eyes, and this whole humanitarian city is a part of that. Okay. But the thing about this humanitarian city, and that's how Esau moves, right? Because you go to the word humanitarian, it's something that concerned with or seeking to promote human welfare. So once again, his words are smoother than butter, but war was in his heart, right? His words are softer than oil, but they were drawn swords. Because you hear this, oh, humanitarian, oh, you sounds like, that's a person that cares about, humanity, right? That's a person that, as it says, seeks to promote human welfare. Well, how are you going to try to promote human welfare when the same people that you're trying to give welfare to are the same people that you destroyed their homes, you destroyed their lives? Now, we're not advocating, for the Palestinians, because they don't belong in that land anyway. All right. But at the end of the day, the truth is the truth. And it's very obvious to see, all right, just how unhumanitarian, okay, the 48ers are in their operation, right? In their fight. Okay. It says, um, critics of the initiative promptly branded the city as an internment camp and warned of potential widespread human rights abuse. Right? Let's go see what an internment camp is. Let's just type it in here. What is an internment camp? An internment camp is a government-run facility where people are detained, often during times of war or political unrest, without trial or due process. These camps typically hold individuals perceived as threats to national security, often based on their ethnicity, nationality, or political beliefs. Conditions can vary widely from relatively humane to harsh and inhumane, depending on the context and governing authority. All right, so this is, a open, basically an open prison, right? And this is just, as I mentioned before, a trial run to their greater plan, right? And they're there. I'm talking about the rulers of the darkness of this world, because that's what these 15-minute cities are. Okay. Remember, you just had Trump said that the federal government can go in and take over New York City, right? If what was it, Zoran is elected, right? He said that they're looking to take over Washington, D.C. Okay. You see what they just did over there in Los Angeles, where they had the military parading down the streets in the name of, right, ICE and trying to get illegal immigrants, but yet there was no major announcements of any arrests. So they just had, Humvees and military um, weapons and military vehicles just rolling down the street. And as I said in my video that I did on that, that is the normalization of militarization. That is what they're doing, getting people accustomed to just seeing the government, right, the federal government take control over your towns and your cities. Okay. So that is, what this whole humanitarian city is all about. So reading on, it says the humanitarian city is expected to initially accommodate some 600,000 Palestinians, primarily displaced persons living in the coastal Mawasi area in the northwest of Rafah, Katz told reporters on Monday. Eventually, all of the estimated 2.2 million Ghazians will be placed into the quote city, which is to be secured by the Israeli military. See, that is going to be secured by the Israeli military from a distance and run by unspecified international organizations, the minister said. So, going off of that, and like I said, we've done
For
videos
ye
on this
shall be
before,
ashamed.
Salakia. We've done videos on this before. Let me see if I could just find that video. Type in Gaza. Let's see. Biometric. Here we go. So this was a video that was
Shall iniquities.
done on this back in October, 8 months ago, right? Where the unspecified, right, as it says here, the unspecified international organization goes to this company at the forefront of this plan called the Global Delivery Company, right? So here, let's read a little bit of what this is saying because I just typed in biometric humanitarian city in Gaza. So reading this, it says I read this part of it. It says access to the area would be contingent on biometric screening to ensure the absence of individuals deemed to be members of Hamas. So how are they going to do that? Biometrically, okay? Which the biometric is all a part of this B system, all right? Being able to measure who you are, not by, paperwork, right? Not by, a physical ID, but a biometric ID. So measuring you by based off of your biology, which tying that with the with the technology, putting that within inside of you. Okay. So when you see how they completely decimated those people over there to the point where there's, grave starvation, right? There's, they without basic necessities, right? They, have no homes to live in. So they at a point of desperation, right? And they did that purposely to get those Palestinians at that point of desperation, so then that they can come in with this humanitarian city, right, as being the saving this the the savior, right? And say, okay, well, you will live in this area and you'll have all of your essentials and your and the aid and the things you need, but we need you to succumb to the biometric screening, right? And once again, that is going to be tied to the charagma. So it says Palestinians would reportedly not be allowed to leave the zone once inside. The plan also involves the establishment of additional aid distribution points within the zone. So they can't even leave the zone once they're in there. What does that sound like? The 15-minute cities, where they said that you won't be leaving those 15-minute cities because everything you need will be within those 15 minutes. So I could, right. So everything you need will be within those 15 minutes. So, this isn't a con, right, spare theory, right? This is something that the defense minister has boldly proclaimed that they're going to do. It says the concept of using biometric screening in conjunction with humanitarian aid distributed in Gaza is not new and has been proposed previously by a US based private company, Global Delivery Company, GDC. This proposal involves creating humanitarian bubbles and gated communities where Palestinians would be subject to biometric screenings, including fingerprints, facial recognitions, and voice samples to receive aid. Okay, so this is what he just said. All right, it said that which would be secured by the Israeli government military from a distance and run by specific international organizations. Well, that specific unsalakia, that unspecified, it says specific, that unspecified international organization could very well be this global delivery company, or it might be another company, or it might be in multiple different companies, because there's a lot of hands that are involved that Esau is using and funding to you know make or construct, right, form or fashion paeo the the MOTB system. All right. But the fact that now it is being confirmed by, this defense minister showed you what time it is, right? And showed you how quickly that they are moving along with these things. It says these proposals have raised significant concerns among humanitarian organizations and international observers, including the UNICEF, I think, or yeah, CIF, and the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. And if you have noticed that as of late, you have had the 48ers. I want to say they might have withdrawn from the UN. I don't know if that's the case though. But did the did Israel state they were going to withdraw from the UN? Let me see something. Right. So there is no definitive evidence from recent credible sources confirming that the 48s have officially stated it will withdraw from the United Nations entirely. However, there have been indications of frustration with the UN, particularly from Israeli officials, and some discussions about disengaging from specific UN bodies or reducing cooperation. Right. All right. So there's been, a lot of tension, right, between the 48ers and right the UN because of of what they're doing, right? How they're moving. But the one people that have been backing them, right, unwaveringly is who? America. You see that in that nation, as the scripture says, that the least of the flock shall draw them out. So let's go back to what this was saying. It says, and the UN Office of Coordination Humanitarian Affairs, who argue that such measures violate humanitarian principles, right? Humanitarian, once again, meaning human welfare principles. And when you really go into the whole MOTB system, it is a complete violation of, the principles of humanitarian, because as they have said it themselves, there will be complete transparency. You won't be able to hide anything. That's what Klaus Schwab said. And he said, well, if you are, good, right, you have nothing to hide, right? You had Yuval Noah Harari himself being a small hat saying that um, they will be able to know more about you than you know about yourself. They will be able to know about what's inside of you. And how are you able to do that? It's by biometrics. Okay. So this is why, and but as you see, this is something that they're planning for a whole population of people, 2.2 million. It's going to start with 600,000, but eventually they want to get this to 2.2 million people. It says risking exposing civilians to military oversight. What is that? Being under martial law, right? Remember the internment camps, and could be seen as using aid as a tool for control and surveillance. Well, that's obvious. These things were all things that were prophesied were going to happen, right? They were going to use aid, use essential goods and services as a weapon to ultimately get people to succumb and to submit to their will, right? It says some organizations have opted out of participation in initiatives involving biometrics. Salaki, some organizations have opted out of participating in initiatives involving biometric screenings due to concerns about neutrality and potential misuse of sensitive data. But that's not stopping them, right? They want to continue to do these things. And in their mind, they're like, well, if we was able just to bomb the hell out of them, just you know, delete tens of thousands of them, us putting up a humanitarian city should not be a problem at all, right? Remember what Trump said? Oh, he gonna make Gaza. He said, "Well, we're gonna have complete control of Gaza, right? We're gonna make it a like Trump Gaza, something to that effect." But that land and all these things are happening in this time period, is really just for the Lord's, final for really his parents, okay? Because as the scripture says, let's get that in Job 18, it's either 18 or Job 20. Um, yeah, Job 20. Job 20, chapter 22. It says, in the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits. Every hand of the wicked shall come upon him, right? And that word a wicked, I think it's Imal, which means laborer, right? The workers, the middle class, the low, the poor class. And why is because the way that they're moving this society, right, with their agenda and their AI and their technology, they're coming out blatantly and saying that, yeah, you're not going to have any work. You're not going to be able to make a living, right? You're going to be reliant on the government, universal basic income, right? That is how you're going to, and you're going to get that through. your your alliance and your allegiance to the system, right? Worshiping the beast. And if you don't, then you're going to be cut off. And a lot of people are not going to, want to do that. But you're also going to have a lot of people that's not going to want to do it, but because of the the straits that they're in, right? Because of the situation of not being able to buy or sell, not being able to eat, not being able to have freedom to move about, at their own discretion, they're going to submit to it. See, because they don't have any faith in anything else. Their faith and their trust is in this world. But for those who have that faith and trust in Yahweh Bashim Shai and that are looking, for the world to come, right? Here not having any continuing city, they're going to get the victory over the beast, right? They're going to stand firm in these times, in these perilous times, man. So let's read a little bit more on this. It says reports indicate that the proposed biometric screening for aid, this is the devil, right? He's a straight. This is the wicked, man. We want to biometrically screen you. Oh, why it keeps doing that, right? You gotta succumb. You gotta take take allegiance, right? You got to make an agreement with us in order for aid. Yeah, we destroyed your whole cities. We destroyed your food markets, right? We destroyed your grocery stores. We destroyed your clothing stores. We destroyed your houses. You have nothing left. You don't have anything. Yeah, the food that is coming in from these UN trucks, go try to get them. We're gonna be right there waiting to pick you off. And that has been reported as well. But see, they're not going to show you that in the mainstream media because we already know who the mainstream media is controlled and run by. But when you look at other outlets, right, international outlets, they're showing you from the other side of things. But that's not what's being promoted here in Babylon the Great on a wide scale. But as the scripture says, an inquisition was going to be made, right, of the wicked, right? Let me get that inquisition. Apocrypher. Right. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 9. For for inquisition shall be made into the counsels of the ungodly, and the sounds of his words shall come unto the Lord for the manifestation of his wicked deeds. See? So the counsels of the ungodly, and who is that? Who have these counsels, the secret counsels of the wicked, right? The agenda, the secret plans that are being made by the powers that be, the hidden hand. That is who Esau, the Amalekites, right? Of the nation of Esau, Edom. But inquisition research, right? Inquiring has been made into them, and that started with what the prophets, man, because that's what we are always talking about. These low level Edomites, Joe Schmo, six pack Edomites, they don't have a clue what's going on. They're about to be chipped, chipped and dipped as well. But it's the ones that sit around, in these private meetings, in these private resorts over there in Davos, okay, on these was that not Epstein Island, Jekyll Island, right? Those individuals that are coming up with these ideas and not only coming up with them but practicing them, right? Micah chapter 2 verse let me get it back in the KJV 2 verse 1. Woe unto them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds when the morning is light. They practice it because it is in the power of their hand. So this ability to push forth this humanitarian city biometric screening, right, for aid for this humanitarian city where they won't have the ability to leave it. They have the powers in their hand to do that because The earth has been given into the hand of the wicked. Okay, so let's go read on. It says, reports indicate that the proposed biometric screening for aid distribution in Gaza has faced implementation challenges, with initial rollouts experiencing overcrowding at distribution sites and reports of minimal screening taking place. So they're having challenge with the initial way that they're doing it, which is, fingerprinting, voice recognition. So how are they going to make it easier, right? How are they going to make it less challenging? Well, everybody, take the Charagma, and this way we can just scan your hand, boom, boom. We have your information. We get the green light for you for you're good to go, and then you get your food, you get your aid. If you get the red light, then no, you don't. Makes it a lot easier, a lot quicker, right? And it'll be less overcrowding. It says it is important to note that the use of biometric technologies in humanitarian contexts, while potentially offering benefits in terms of efficiency and accountability, also raise concerns regarding privacy, data protection, potential for exclusion, and the risk for exacerbating harm, especially in conflict zones. Well, they already tell you that you're not going to have any privacy, right? They told you that even with the um, digital currency, that there will be no place for anonymity, right? With using tokenized coins for purchasing, things. They want to be able to track who is purchasing what and when and how much of it, right? There's no data protection because they're the ones that's going to control the cloud. They want to be the God in the cloud, right? I will extend above the stars of heaven, right? I would extend into the clouds. I shall be like the Most High. Well, uh, uh, his way to do that, okay, not only with his, space force, right, but also him doing it via the digital cloud. Isaiah 14, verse 14. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Because if everybody's data is in this cloud, right, air quotes, and they have control or omnipotency over the cloud, then they are the god of the digital cloud. And that's why he says, I will ascend above the clouds. Right? So he gets to look down into the data cloud and be able to see everybody and how they move, right? What they're doing, and even to the point of using that charagma to get into your minds of what you're thinking. I always do that where where'd it go? Yeah, right. So I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High, right? And it says potential for exclusion, meaning what? If you don't, you know, if you don't tap in to this biometric technologies, if you don't, make league with that, right? If you don't take that charagma, then you're going to be excluded from the aid. So seeing this and seeing how they're moving with this, it's very evident that this is, a trial run, right? And like I said, majority of society, civilization, they're not going to do anything, right, to stop them because they have pushed out this whole a narrative of they're the victims, right? Oh, the 48ers, they got attacked, so they're never again, never again. But there's been so much talk about just how the security collapsed, for the Hamas to be able to do what they did on that day. So what looks like an attack could have very well been something that was um, orchestrated, right? Not saying that it was, but hey, Well, same thing that happened on, the 119 backwards. It looked like it was one thing, but there's a mounting evidence that shows that this was something that was orchestrated. And it was orchestrated for a particular purpose. And now we're seeing that purpose, that agenda, that plan, right, now come to light, right? So we don't marvel at the fact that, yeah, they want to create this humanitarian city where you have to, be biometrically screened in order to receive aid. Um, let's read a little bit. It says, while the government still calls the deportation voluntary, people in Gaza are under so many cohesive measures. Did they not use cohesive measures during the emic, right? First, they was using the carrot, but then they started using the stick. Remember what Biden said? Uh, we were patient, but our patience was growing thin. So just imagine now with this devil knowing he has but a short time, how much less patience he's had. And you can clearly see that he's going to be using these opportunities to further that agenda along. Um, It says that no departure from the strip can be seen in legal terms as consensual. Well, it's not going to be consensual in the sense of, yeah, we want to do it. It's going to be in the sense of you don't do it, then you're going to be, without aid. You're going to be without food. You're going to starve, right? And see, but those Palestinians, they're calling on Allah. They're not calling on because they're not the God of heaven and earth, the God, the living God. That's not their people. Or should I say, he's not their God. Now you may have some Israelites that are scattered amongst them, but for the majority of it, they're calling on Allah. You may have Israelites that are there that are calling on Allah. So they're in these positions and they're going to, either fold and be coerced into doing it because they pray to a God that cannot save, right? And at the end of the day, they're going to be looking for salvation and they are going to realize that there is no salvation in Allah. And the only way for them to get food, only way for them to get shelter, only the way for them to have any sense of refuge is, well, we're going to have to just, go to this humanitarian city and abide by the rules of engagement, which once again is going to lead to that charagma over there. It says the humanitarian city plan comes after the 48ers rejected Hamas proposed changes to a Gaza ceasefire deal. The Palestinian militant group reportedly wanted the agreement to ensure a permanent truce and the Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. They're not withdrawing from Gaza, right? They saying now we staying there. We gonna move y'all to this humanitarian city, and which is ran by what the guy said. I believe this global delivery group is a U.S. as it says a U.S. based private company. So who is backing it? The United States. What are they backing it for? For using that as a big simulation, a big trial run. Let's see if we can get these people to put something in their bodies, just like with the emic. Let's see if we can scare people to put something into their bodies via a pestilence. Now let's see if we can scare people to put something right to succumb to biometric screenings and right to abide right or to agree to staying in a specific area right where you can't leave, but we'll give you aid, we'll give you food if you take this, put this Karag menu. Because like I said, the biometric screening right now they're saying it's in fingerprints and facial recognition, but soon enough, right, to receive aid, but soon enough it's going to be, yeah, you know what's easier? Yeah, to just get this in, just put this in you, right? Put this Karag in you. So let's just get it. Revelation 13, because as we always say, all roads leads to the sea hip. Revelation 13, verse 16, and he causeth right? Paeo, form, fashion, right? Paeo, to form, to make, to be the author of. So who is the author of this? Esau, specifically Amalek. To cause, to make ready, to prepare, right? To fashion, to construct. So he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a charagma in their right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell, save he that have the charagma, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Right. So this prophecy is a major prophecy that will shape or reshape, okay, life as you know it. But the way that they're going to do it is a coercive way, right? A way that is going to be presented as something that is positive, right? Something that is necessary, something that is, saving you from, the famine, saving you from not being able to eat, or not being able to buy things, not being able to, be properly ID'd so that you can go places or you can have a job, all of these things. You see, so that's pretty much it. Just want to show that, bring this out. Matter of fact, let me get this last precept in Job 5. Verse 12, he disappointeth the devices of the crafty so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. Okay, so the Lord is going to disappoint this devil because right now he see in his mind, because of his pride, he thinks he's going to get this all off, right? He thinks that it's about to happen. But as we read in Job 20, when he's about to fill his belly, then the Lord is going to strike him through. Matter of fact, I don't know if I read that part. My bad. Uh, Yep, verse 23. When he is about to fill his belly, the Most High shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him, and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. Right? While he is eating, while he's while he has mandated it, he's getting different countries and different places, doing it, passing the legislations and laws, right? Having this become a worldwide um device, right? A worldwide enterprise. Hey, the Lord is going to what? Rain his fury upon him. That's when Yahweh Shai is going to be sent, because we're going to need deliverance in that day, man. Because that's not a life, right, that we can live in. But the Lord is going to have his elect, endure it, okay, and get the victory over it. So, with that, I'm gonna close it out, giving all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash, Lord willing, this is edifying unto the elect. Till next time, Shalom.